Happy Friday. We got a beautiful conjunction tonight. I was trying to show y'all Jupiter. It's really close by, but just right out of frame. It's also like so dim that I have to kind of switch it back and forth. We'll be going to Jupiter regularly tonight. What's up, chat room? What's happening, Mark Rowe? What's happening, Bon Dia? What's up, Mary? Nice to see ya. Wax on. Totally. Started off with some Catch tonight. We'll stay here for a bit and then we'll head over to Jupiter.
I left home at 17. Couldn't tell you if I was living a dream. What could I do? For a while I played the field. How could I prove the hidden yield without the blues to feel? My heart was cool and left no residue. a simulation. Wake up, it's solitary. Wake up, it's imaginary. Man, don't you know your life is worth more than what you have. Take a good look, it's a simulation. Wake up, it's solitary. Wake up, it's imaginary. Man, don't you know your life is worth more than Catch me if you fall, catch me if you're low. The loot goes high and up, as fast as you can go. Oh, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low.
All right, that was a little bit of catch. So, let me pull up Stellarium here, take a quick gander at what's going on. We got the Moon and Jupiter conjunction tonight, so I've been talking about. Super excited that it's clear. Got Antares a little bit closer to Jupiter as well. Moon's at 9.7 days old, 74 exactly % illuminated. And right now about, where's my altitude? 41 degrees altitude, so it's pretty high up there, almost due south. Saturn is also in tow. Got the, let's see, I want to say welcome to Bon Dia and Jenna Jen again, just since y'all are new, or maybe just starting to tune in. Check out archives and check out the description of the video for more information, more links, and gear, etc., and music. What's happening since Camilo and whoever else is hopping on with us. Seems like it's packing in. I'm going to keep reading the stuff I've been reading for the last few nights, some more Ralph Jurgens stuff, talk about more hexagonal geometry on the moon. Now we got a lot more features going on. Mare Imbrium is starting to appear. The crater that's most prominent in the shadow right now is Eratosthenes. Tonight, Mare Crisium definitely looks a little less hexagonal, but it's still got its features because it's kind of tilting towards us. What's up, Genghis? How's it going? All right, and feel free to ask any questions if you're new. Everybody's helpful. No questions are out of bounds. All right. It's quite hot tonight, so I'm gonna try and keep moving and cool, and if I sit in one place, I know I'm gonna cook. Oh yeah, thank you, Genghis, just reminded me. So some new tracks are up at Bandcamp. I'm gonna drop the link in for y'all. It's so funny, I got that all ready, and then I set up the scope and I completely forgot. Here we go. So that has, I want to say 3 new tracks that I added. Yeah. It's got Grown to Like Ya, Cactus Dance, and Dreamboat. Mostly mixed, but yeah. So go check that out. I'll put another 3 up this weekend. So there'll be at least like a dozen by next week, by the full moon, which is kind of what I wanted to do. Okay. I'll play one of the tracks that I posted. That is this one. What's up, everybody? Welcome, Jello. Welcome, somebody somewhere. Whoever else is joining. All right, we got a little bit of Great Red Storm in Jupiter. I showed the moons for a second. This is the camera direct to scope, so no focal reducer. And yeah, it's a bit washed out tonight, but it's really because it's doused in the light of the moon. And yeah, so we're getting a lot of kind of grain on top of Jupiter. But still, it's wonderful as always. What's up, Duplicate? What up, Lumberjack? Thank you, appreciate that. Duplicate says, incoming. Ha, not the asteroid. I just dropped the link into the NASA live chat. Oh yeah. Yeah, lots of 808s. I just run a ton of 808s and 909s through filters and such, so you're gonna hear beats like that a lot. Yo, what's up, Scylla Henry? This is live right now. This is Jupiter on an 8-inch scope. So the moon is gonna look pretty radical. I'm gonna go over there in a couple of seconds. Just wanna make sure we get some good footage of the Great Red Storm, even if it's a bit blurry. If you're just joining and you're new, please ask questions. Check the description of the video and also check out archived playlists if you're interested. I've been doing the show for a few years now. A lot of videos and a lot of cool events and celestial events and transits and satellites. Lots of stuff. Very chill tonight. It's been a really intense week. Lots of work, and then every night I've been streaming, at least for a couple hours. I appreciate all the people who have been hanging out with me on these long streams. It makes it worthwhile. Shout outs to all the other people streaming tonight. I know it seems like it's clear skies for a bunch of people, so that's great. All right, y'all ready for some crazy moonage? Let's do it. It's so funny, I had to go all the way up and all the way back down. The moon's so close. Here we go. Love the look of Mare Imbrium tonight. Lysium, Serenity, Tranquility, Fecundity. We got Clavius at the bottom tonight, and Tycho out of shadow. I think I saw a little cloud come through. Oh, also, it sucks. When I first set up tonight, as I was kind of putting the tripod up, an amazing satellite passed by, very slow. Could have been an amazing capture had I been set up like just 10 minutes earlier. That's how it happens. One of those tiny white lights in the sky. So funny, years back I used to definitely think those were aliens. Be like, what's up, UFOs? But now I know it's just like little canisters with plasma ion propulsion. Really, all you can really see are little flashy lights, sometimes a shadow or two. Scylla Henry says, we bought a used telescope and it didn't work for us to view tonight. Jupiter looks like a star. Yeah, so it's a very, it's one of those things when you first get into telescoping astronomy, you realize that the planets have been kind of represented a little, I don't want to say poorly, they've been represented like way too well in the media. People think they're going to get a scope and see Jupiter up close. I was guilty of it too, even though I'd done all this prep work. Like when I first put up the scope, this 8-inch, and looked at Jupiter for the first time, I was like, man, it's tiny. Same thing with Saturn. Only the moon is very impressive, kind of with pretty much any, what's this? What's up? Cosmos says, NASA Live, Earth, just, oh. All right. What up, Cosmos? Welcome. What's up, C. Smith? Good to see you. Catch you up there. I can't believe it just got cloudy. It's crazy. I'm gonna take a look outside. Anyway, so Jupiter really requires, just to finish up the thought, requires about a 6 or an 8-inch scope with at least a 2x or 3x Barlow magnifier. And then on top of it, with like a digital camera, you can double or quadruple the size of that image. That seems to be the best way to kind of, or at least that I've found, to show Jupiter quickly and close up. That's what I've been showing y'all tonight. But I can't even believe it got cloudy, like I said. Let's see what's going on. Maybe Saturn is in view. So there's some, a bunch of like, what looks like very white, not lucent clouds came through, just busting by. So I moved us over to Jupiter for a hot few. What's going on? Crimson Tider, welcome. Let's see. Mary says, do the gases on Jupiter dissipate into space? That's a really great question. So there's this whole idea of outgassing off of planetary objects and celestial objects. And then Jupiter itself, the kind of makeup of it, similarly to the sun, is that I think we've understood from contemporary science that it's really like a gas. But the more you study, or at least the more I study plasma cosmology, you realize that it's very possible that Saturn and Jupiter and the Sun are all some sort of very, that actually have a surface, and it's something more akin to liquid metallic hydrogen. So probably gases do escape into space around Jupiter, but they probably flow along electrical Birkeland currents or magnetic fields. So they're much more organized than just dissipating outwards in a scatter. That's just my opinion, but that's how it seems. So I don't think Jupiter is really gaseous as we can imagine, like gas on Earth escaping. But if you kind of see X-ray footage of Jupiter, you'll see kind of this, the aura or the magnetic influence of Jupiter. You can imagine that anything surface particulate coming off of Jupiter is probably emanating into this cloud. What up, Lost Brooklyn? How's it going? Heavy elements. True. C. Smith says, I can barely get a good moon view. Haha. Never mind anything else. Moon takes practice for sure as well. Since it came out, says I felt the same way the first time I remote viewed Jupiter. For real, I think optical with a really great eyepiece. Yes, it's not remote viewing, but it has that kind of crazy, mind-expanding, hallucinatory experience. I mean, this is pretty good, but there's something about looking at it with your eye on the scope, and the way Jupiter pops and Saturn pops out. It's just something like, it's pretty remarkable. That's not to say that the moon isn't similarly. Mary says, are the gases metallic? So I feel like it's one of these questions that it's more about the modality or the phases of it, like water being steam and liquid and ice. Same with probably plasma and heavy elements and like mentioned. And I guess the surface of Jupiter and Saturn must interact with the magnetic fields around it in a very organized, fractal way, because we see the surface of these planets are basically mirrors of the surrounding area. The same way on Earth, people are starting to understand that the surface features are carved by the wind, and basically the wind leaves an imprint of its shape on Earth. Same thing with lightning storms, and kind of the implied idea of plasma cosmology being that giant lightning bolts basically carved mountains and craters on Earth and other planets. And similarly, maybe these same lightning bolts basically boiled these planets and moons and got these bubbling pockmarks, which we can go back to the moon in a second and take a look at it. I want to talk about bubbling, molten bubbling. Yo, Cosmo says, good luck with the stream. TakeBackSpace from everybody at Space Videos. Cool, man. Thank you. You all are welcome to hang out. It's going to be a fun one. I'm definitely going until about midnight tonight if the skies stay clear. So I'm going to quickly put up the moons of Jupiter. Got Ganymede all the way over here on the right. And Callisto. Where you at, Callisto? There we go. And then we got the moon Io. And hanging out by itself on the left, got Europa. So, Mary, actually, it's a little bit out of my range, actually. I don't really understand gaseous interaction with surrounding space as well as I could. So I would definitely check out some of the links in my description for all the other EU channels. There are definitely people who are talking about that. I don't think I've heard that particular concept being talked about, basically outgassing of Jupiter into space. But I would assume that if you listen to Donald Scott talk about the electric sun, and if you listen to Sky Scholar Pierre-Marie Robitaille talk about black body emission, radiation, the electric sun, and it's a liquid metallic hydrogen sun for him with a surface and waves, and I feel like that's kind of the right line of research. That's where I would go. So I don't really talk out of line. I feel like sometimes I broach topics that I really don't know much about, but I can assume, or I can speculate rather, cautiously. Let's turn off these Galilean moon labels. Galilean moons. It's amazing how Jupiter's supposed to have roughly 70 moons, but we can only see these 4. I know it's kind of cliche at this point to say that, but it's just crazy. It's a crazy thought. The idea of dimness, the idea of magnification in general, like how crazy that some things are visible and some things are just out of view, but they're right there. All right, some new tunes, and I'm gonna play this track. If I can find it. Yeah. looking really nice. Like I said, a few clouds are moving through, so it's kind of wet. But I want to hop in the chat, say what's up to everybody just joining. What up, Anthony? Nice to see you. What up? Thought I saw somebody else. Let me know if I missed you. Hella atmospheric, true dat. What are my thoughts on Nibiru? That's what I want to ask. Yeah, answer. That's what I want to ask. So, while we're doing that, I just pulled up Tycho Crater. Really awesome view of it tonight, looking elliptical. Not so much hexagonal, to be honest, but I think let it clear a bit and we'll see the other hexagons. Got central peaks in view. It's looking really nice. Move over to Clavius in a couple. So yeah, Planet X. So I feel like I've talked about this in a bunch of different ways, mostly because I don't like fear porn, like ideas that you need more than what we see in space to be excited. But the other thing is that I feel like it's very possible that there were other objects in the solar system. Maybe not right now, but maybe in the past or recently. So I think that anything is possible. There might be a planet on a very, very long elliptical orbit that takes, whatever, 3,000 years or so. But I think it's more so that when I talk about the electric universe stuff, you have a recent history of catastrophism, and I kind of just take it from there, really, just something to the range of 5,000 years. Do I think there's a planet X now? I don't know, but I think the name Nibiru, I feel, is probably a name of Jupiter or Saturn or the Sun. I feel like historical names are misappropriated constantly. So I think that Nibiru also sounds like a very great marketing phrase. It's got that kind of spooky language, fear porn vibe to it. So Nibiru, Planet X, those words together, that phrase is very good to sell UFO videos and fear porn. So I feel like it's tainted for me at this point. However, it's definitely possible that there are objects in space that we, the people, don't know about. And I think it's very possible that there might have been objects in the sky that exploded into different pieces. Today I was looking up creation of the moon, and there's this idea that there was proto-Earth, so a much larger Earth, and there was a smaller planetary body called Thiele, Thiele, and Thiele rammed into Earth at a certain point, exploded, creating the Earth and the moon as we know it now. But if you look at this diagram or this image that NASA shows and that a bunch of other people show, it just feels a little bit like this object would have absolutely decimated proto-Earth. There wouldn't be any Earth to actually turn into what we have today. And further, there are a lot of theories showing that the Earth and the moon actually grow and are not shrinking, actually. So the moon is pulling away from us, but it's not actually shrinking in size. So a couple of these things don't make a lot of sense. I'm really into the formation of the moon, which seems pretty important. It's something that could be the key to our past and could unify people. Sorry, I'm just stretching. Check this out. We got Clavius, looking really excellent, right on the Terminator. Yo, what's going on? Happy Lux. How are you? And everybody. Put on some tunes. Yeah, so the other part of Nibiru that I wanted to make sure I was clear about is that people think there's a second sun. People think, or at least there are conspiracies online that talk about a second sun or Rahu, this kind of fake sun that covers the moon or covers the sun during an eclipse. There are stories about, what is it? I think mostly it's the second sun hypothesis that kind of gets to me. It's one of those things where people attributing full-blown conspiracies to basically what are like refractive aberrations in photos and videos. Now, are those refractions and sundogs and all that stuff not look amazing? They do look amazing, those pictures, but they're not like aliens or second suns or things like that. I know that wasn't very eloquent, but that's my point. I was trying to get that point across, but Bom Dia says, are black holes portals to their universes? String theory. That's a lot of stuff in one, but I don't really think that string theory is going anywhere. I think they've spent 50 years trying to figure things out, and it really hasn't yielded much in terms of physical advancements in science. Only a lot of prizes for incredible math equations. And then are black holes portals to their universes? I don't see who you're referencing to in terms of their, but I guess aliens or other people or a secondary dimension. But I honestly think that we can't really tell what black holes are because you can't really prove or disprove black holes. And I definitely would encourage taking a look at the video that Thunderbolts Project did about the picture of the black hole, explaining what that really is. And I would also encourage people to take a look at Halton Arp's work, who also took an image of that same nebular cluster, or Z-pinch or black hole. But if you look at the science of black holes coupled with the imagery of black holes and then the physics of black holes, you'll see that there's a lot of inconsistency. Very hard to understand, but on top of it, it's hard to understand because it can't be proven, so you have to have an element of faith. And so there are a lot of theories that you can take on with faith. And for example, even physical theories like, for example, the hollow moon or hollow planets or hollow Earth, that in a way also has to be taken on faith, even though it's one of those things that's indicated by plasma cosmology. But it's very difficult to imagine how mankind is going to dig more than 10 miles into the ground or dig 10 miles into the surface of the moon. Yo, what's going on? Loops to Lou, welcome back. More Jellos talking about coffee. I wish I had coffee, but I'm going to try and not drink coffee tonight. It was crushing me yesterday. I crashed so hard afterwards. All right, let's move to the southern portion. Take a look at Mare Imbrium, Mare Frigoris, Plato Crater, Archimedes, Aristyllus, Autolycus, the Apennine Mountain Range. Got some really great features tonight. C. Smith follows up my comment about black holes, says, plus the most we know about black holes comes from questionable facts. Well, questionable facts, it's true to some degree. We live in a cosmology right now, publicly, that uses the Big Bang as a baseline and then extrapolates ad hominem theories and ad hoc concepts on top of already theoretical ideas. So theoretical concepts like black holes, like expansion of the universe, like the Big Bang, like dark matter, all these things can't be proven and can't be disproven. So if you read these articles, it just has this leaning that says scientists think it must be there, and then they invent something to be there. And I think what Thunderbolts Project talks about a lot, and it was kind of the first time I'd seen anybody really be very consistent about this viewpoint, which is you kind of have to say, where's the observational science fit into all of this? And I've talked about it a lot where you'll see a ton of science shows on YouTube, just a ton every day, and there's so little actual footage of space, of the moon, of Saturn, of Jupiter, of stars. It's all renderings. I mean, I'm not going to say that. That's sweeping. It's a lot of renderings, It's a lot of textures put onto objects, and there's so little actual footage from digital cameras. And we've been living in an age where we have some of the best digital cameras ever to exist. And I understand why people watch these rocket launches and you get the worst possible cameras. I mean, they're finally getting better, but for a long time, we've had just terrible cameras on the heads of spaceships. And for some reason, it's always like, oh, we didn't launch this to take pictures. That's always the reason. But I always thought that was very silly. Because yes, why not take pictures of the best quality? Anyway, I went off on a random tangent. But I really think that Nibiru, I'm not going to look it up right now, but I feel like Nibiru is very likely Saturn, just a different name. Saturn was also called Kronos. And you were talking about red dwarf. It's actually a brown dwarf and a red giant are the terms, but like, what do I really know about that? The concept, at least in plasma cosmology, is that Saturn was a brown dwarf a few thousand years ago and had Earth and Mars in its domain, and then got torn apart. The cosmic egg broke open the plasma sheath of Saturn, giving Earth its water and releasing Earth into the solar system that we have today. And then things happened. So this is like 5,000 to 10,000 years. And I know how it sounds. It definitely sounds to people that sometimes it's like, you believe in that? Sounds like a religion. But looking at the moon right up close and seeing all the carving that happens, you can really understand why the universe is electric at its core. You got geometry everywhere, recursive, fractal, up and down, and makes much more sense than being flung into the universe from nothing, expanding forever, crashing into the Andromeda galaxy, waiting for the next asteroid to hit, dealing with spooky, dark, black magic, mathemagicians as they call them. And I'm not tossing out math. Math is great, but I think we've leaned way too heavily on math and so little on actual footage and research. And so, unless that's all happening in private, which is totally possible too. What's going on, chat room? Mary says, sometimes it seems common sense is lacking in many theories. I agree. Also, actual evidence is lacking in many theories. You read a lot of articles that postulate upon postulations or postulates, and that's really not science. That's just thinking. You know, people laud Einstein for his thought experiments, but people like Tesla and Heaviside and Steinmetz and the electric pioneers scoffed at that type of research, because really you needed to have hands-on experience in order to have a broad and general understanding of things. So Einstein wasn't more than a hot shit in math. You know, he really didn't get his hands dirty with laboratory experiments like Tesla did. And so I much more think that Tesla is somebody we can look at and see, you know, that's scientific pioneering, that's scientific ethicalism. He basically, scientific ethics, he was actually just completely all about the actual science of it. All right. I'm gonna take a little break because I could just talk and talk, but I want to play some tunes, and I'm gonna do a little zoomed in tour right here of Mare Imbrium. Archimedes, Autolycus, and Aristillus. Sensei Camilla was talking about, I was watching a show on TV the other day and talked about the creation of our solar system and how Earth is a byproduct of many worldly collisions that eventually became a planet. that's a little bit what I was talking about earlier in terms of this idea of the accretion disk and how large objects impact each other in space and then create rubble, and rubble turns into a ring, and that ring accumulates into a sphere planet, into a smooth planet. And I kind of just, at this point, when you really look at the physical the simulation videos of all of these, you realize that none of this exists in space. There are no accretion disks. It's never been observed. All the accretion disk models fail. You can't really generate anything larger than a boulder, and let alone a planet or the moon or the Earth. And so this idea of protoplanetary smashing together and creating accretion disks that create planets is really something that I don't believe in anymore. But I know people think that that sounds crazy. I would urge people to look at those simulations and those thoughts with new eyes and kind of consider if something like that could really happen and where the evidence is to support it, versus the idea that planets, stars, everything is basically grown from a seed and reaches the size that we see it today, and is probably still growing, just like humans grow, just like cells grow and die. It seems likely that planets, asteroids, meteors, comets, the likes, all of them have grown at some point, including stars. And that kind of matches the correct idea of fractal, holographic recursiveness, and much more holistic and empowering. So, looking at a great shot right here of the Apennine mountain range, you can see really like what created these mountains on the moon. I want to give you some height measurements if I can. We're looking particularly at this region with Aratus. It's a 10-kilometer crater. That's that tiny little crater that you see. It's the only one. And then that's Montes Apenninus. That's a giant mountain range underneath it. And that's something like around 1,000 kilometers worth of mountain range that we're looking at. It's about 16,000 feet high. And it leads upwards towards Archimedes, Montes Archimedes, and Aristillus and Autolycus. Autolycus is the smaller one. Aristillus is above. Yo, what up, Crystal? Says, what's up? Great talk so far tonight. Thank you. That's why Tesla didn't live long, unfortunately. So my understanding is that they kind of holed him up in New York. They put him in an apartment and kept watch. And so he couldn't really perform like the way he normally would. Kind of died basically penniless, hanging out in Central Park. It's just a crazy story. I'm sure it's missing a lot of details, but insofar as what I've heard, that's sort of what happened. They absconded with all his tech and kept watch. And now we have to look up Tesla and find cars. It's really kind of a tragic story, a great man. But keeping him alive tonight. All right, I'm gonna take a little break, stretch, be back in a couple. All right. Mary, have a great one. Thanks for stopping by again. I know you got to go. Catch you soon. Got a little bit of Jupiter in view. This is a 3x view. It's definitely affected by the light of the moon tonight. But when we go back to the moon and Saturn, we're going to see some nice detail. I still want to finish the end of this one. It kind of loops around over here. But confession, I did that on a keyboard with a saxophone sound. That's my imitation sax. I'd love to be able to play sax, but really, there's only so much time in a life. Oh, what's going on, Moli Hua B? And what's up, Cichlid Visuals? And what's up, Scylla Henry's 4-year-old, right? Got some great red spot. And anyone else? Let me know if I missed you. So just waiting for this great red spot to disappear around the back. This is a 3x Barlow shot. And it's looking pretty nice, definitely affected by the light of the moon. And I'm gonna get another track in here. Quick note for everyone joining, if you like the music, please check out the link in the description for Bandcamp, iTunes, Spotify for my music, if you like it.
Calling in from outer space, holding up their antivirus. Send you that telemetry and tell me what you do with it if you were me. Position from above, she said it was the kernel. Actively making love, it wasn't eternal. We got you back on stage, just to never hurt you. Your band had left the classes, wasn't even booked. This in the middle, I can't afford it. Went to the side on your big taxi, no matter how you earn it. Full correction through when your life was bitter. Bring it to your rebirthday, we busted out on Twitter. Coming out of history, feeling nothing's intensity to
friends. I know it's hard sometimes, and we can make it. Try. Why don't you try? Your mind's obey the call. The heart now hears the sun. Someday you're gone. We live the fascination of our heartbeats. Never aboard. Never aboard. Never aboard. Try to try. Don't you try.
All right. Was fiddling there trying to find Saturn. Here we go. Got a 3X on. It's a pretty good shot, but like I said, the moon's light is so bright tonight that it's definitely affecting it's affecting Saturn and Jupiter's visibility. However, you can see a nice separation in the rings, Cassini division. Sadly, no hexagon, but we know it's there. I can go back to that funky techno track. Where was that? That was called... I thought it might have been a little too much for people. This one. This is stuff I used to listen to about 20 years ago. Still, I wrote this recently, but I was just like kind of channeling 2002. What's up, everybody? All right, so I realized like I haven't done a nice shot of a star in a while, and that song is called Star Sat on Your Head. So I figure Antares is right under Jupiter, looking really nice. It's one of those very red stars. It's one of the, I think, the most red star that we can see from Earth. Antares literally means almost the opposite of Mars. So I've never really found the connection, but I assume that within the plasma universe that our ancestors saw Antares either closer or nearby Mars interacting in some way, which would be unbelievable. The star under the moon, Cleary, that's Jupiter actually. Looking like a star, but if you zoom in, you'll see the planets, the Galilean moons, and I'll just do that right after this. Basically, Antares is the second brightest object under that. So if you look at the moon, right underneath Jupiter, right underneath that is what we're looking at right here. Yo, what up, Guitar Lots? How's it going? All right, so that's Antares. Let me zoom in one level more. It almost looks like a fingerprint. It's so crazy. It's probably the cymatics either emanating from the star, or that's what the kind of, maybe that's what they attribute to gravitational waves, or maybe the cymatics are coming through our atmosphere, our magnetosphere, and that's what makes it look like fractals. I mean, it's not even fractals in the typical sense. It almost looks like, if you look at your fingertip, you'll see the kind of networking, almost branching. That, to me, seems so funny how that looks so similar. Looks like a fingertip. And of course, Antares is supposed to be incredibly far away. Cleary is right, actually. Awesome, Scylla. So cool. What I was saying is Jupiter and Saturn are definitely looking smaller lately. Like a few months back, they were really much larger in the scope. But still, I think with the right kind of magnification, you can basically see the same proportions. However, the detail is not there. Right? Does it feel like fingerprints to anyone else? C. Smith, awesome. Looks like the coolest disco ball ever. What's up, Gary Baxter? What's up, Jackie? Nice to see you. God's fingerprint. So in the plasma universe, stars are basically grown on filaments, like tomatoes on a vine. And I really like that idea, versus stars are islands in space that kind of exist on their own from particulate matter. Once I get back to the moon, I'm going to get into some of this Ralph Jurgens stuff. Yeah, Antares, in a sense, is basically like a very, very distant version of our sun. All right. I'm going to get over to Jupiter for a moment, and then back to the moon. got some super duper close up. And of course, as soon as it got clear and nice and up close, the clouds appeared as if somebody doesn't want us to see. Anyway, of course you can see it. You got major angles going on. I'm gonna call out what I know as we go. Lots of little pareidolia. But the main one just earlier was Clavius. That was looking amazing. That's a chain of craters. A very prominent mega structure. Let's go back to it for a second. Damn, it's so close I don't even know where I'm at. There we go. Cleary says, one small step for mankind in reverse speech is never spacewalk, no. I'm laughing because I don't think I've ever heard that one before. In all the years of conspiracy hunting, that's just like the Led Zeppelin, like playing Stairway to Heaven backwards. You get like worship the devil. Exactly, one small step backwards is NASA lies, people dies. All right, so for reference, this is Clavius at probably one of its coolest points. It almost looks like it's pushing into the blackness of the dark side, like Luke. And right above it is Tycho, and Tycho crater has a very interesting look tonight. It looks a lot like it's centered within a diamond, and you can see the indentation all the way around from the wider. And then as it goes in, you get a ring of smaller craters that all have kind of interlocking, almost cellular type nature, like Lego or puzzle pieces. Tycho is obviously the largest feature that you can see right there. C. Smith says, emphasis on small step, as in they walked out their actor trailer suits. Man, the Apollo missions suck. Even if they're real, the whole kind of story is so tainted. It would be nice to know once and for all if we could do it, which is why I want to focus on moving forward, and hopefully we'll see it in our lifetimes. Perhaps. So it's very fascinating looking at the idea of bubbling or boiling, and also looking at how these craters emanate from around. Maybe they don't emanate from Tycho, but as they kind of surround Tycho crater, you kind of see these craters kind of pushing into one another, almost like they were growing, and then they found the walls and they pushed in and created kind of interlocking pieces. Directly to the right of it is a perfect example of that. That is one of those very key structures that is almost not be impact related at all. Because how is that feature formed? Let me see if I can zoom in on that particular region. So right here, you can almost see a little bit of the sputter. These kind of little filamentary spattering of marks. And then these kind of, it's not like a crater that hit on top of another crater. This is literally interlocking pieces that both have not central peaks, but peaks. This is right next to Tycho. And you can kind of see that Tycho as well is one of those, I don't want to say if it's a transient lunar phenomenon, it's just a lunar phenomenon of certain points on the moon are much much, I want to say hotter white, so just almost blown out white. The peak of Tycho and the kind of rim of Tycho to the top left is particularly bright tonight. This is one of those lunar phenomena that is very interesting, and there's not a lot of research on it or like anything really solved with the fact that it basically glows differently in different regions and different points. And it has nothing to do with altitude or geology, but more so like an electrostatic effect. What's going on, chat room? Let me know if y'all want to see a particular feature. This is super duper close up and clear. Clear. Here's an old jam, damn. Funny, I keep trying to take a break, and then I get to a really cool part of the moon that I want to talk about. Anyway, this is Huygens sword, Rima Huygens, and it's named that because of this lower area looking like the hilt of a sword, and then this shelf, or possibly, I don't even know if you can really call this a sinuous rill, but it could be. But it doesn't have that kind of snaking attribute that other sinuous rills, in fact, the ones right next to it that are very faint, are almost more snaking. But this looks more like a shelf in the regolith that's kind of folded on itself. But it's very funny that it kind of terminates in this little hooked mountain range. Let me know what y'all think of this. It's one of the very particular lunar features. Also, one of those things that when you type in Rima Huygens or Huygens sword, you try and look up research on it. There isn't very much. Deborah says, electric moon, is that a fault line? I don't know, it could be. It could also be like maybe the whole land, the area that it's on, kind of got either an earthquake or a landslide, possibly. A moon landslide. Possibly. It's hard to gauge. I mean, but that's partly why I really want to get this information out there, or this footage out there, so we can really have a better discussion about the moon. The moon is really talked about so politically and so vaguely, even by the historians, that every time you watch somebody talk about the moon nowadays, they're recapping Apollo, and they're just postulating like these random things about, 6, 10, 8 years, whatever. Just like, it's always pushing it ahead. And I feel like we really need to be focused on what we know about the moon, like what we've learned about the moon. And you see these articles about uncovering 10-year-old data and then reinterpreting it. I just feel like either it's important or it's not. And for me, it's very important. So I can show this stuff. Here's a particular example of some electric scarification. Not particularly hexagonal, but just have a few like kind of straight walls. But you do have a crater on the rim of larger craters. And that's one of those really particular features to electric discharge. Man, it is cooking hot. Jazzy tube. Yeah, let's put some jazzy tube. SE Smith says it might explain the metallic area they say they found. My thoughts on that. It's kind of out there, but so am I. I feel like the moon is definitely has titanium, has different metals in the ore, in the regolith. It definitely has all of that. But really the composition of lunar soil is fascinating. It's something that I've looked into, but there's so much to really study, and it's kind of melts your mind. I don't know if anybody's seen Jarrah White, who did the Moon Faker video series. He talks about, he actually got his degree in geology and really talks about moon rocks and sample soil analysis comparative to Earth. Knows his shit, but really listening to him, like, you realize how little you know about geology. At the same time, I don't feel like spectral analysis of rocks in a way, you know, can identify everything about a rock. A rock is essentially a dense object inside this plasma ether, this consciousness field. What's with the square objects? It's the same sort of thing. There's this kind of idea that the moon and all these celestial bodies are covered with craters that are from impacts. Like, basically they show the picture of a rock with a fiery tail coming out of space and hitting the surface or exploding over the surface. But in this other model of the universe called the plasma universe, electric lightning bolts like we see on Earth, like much, much larger and much more powerful, are exchanged between planets and moons. And they can leave similar types of marks that look like craters, but are not. That means that means we've basically been misinterpreting craters all these years, if that's the case. So what comes with electrical scarring is that you get this kind of electric growth. And electric growth grows in squares, hexagons, pentagons, and that's where we get geometry from. Really, the underlying fundamentals of nature are geometric. Anything with an impact, you know, sometimes could leave geometric shapes, but ultimately it would be much more erratic, and you wouldn't get these very perfectly shaped objects on the moon, surface features. We'll see a lot more. Like, I'll keep cruising up here. I keep forgetting to move when I talk, but let's get up to Plato Crater and we can take a look at something crazy. Or actually look at this kind of stretch marks. This is Copernicus. Wow. Never ceases to amaze. So this is attributed to a giant impact at a certain point a couple of billion years ago. And in the plasma universe, this is attributed to something that happened very quickly, but with an electrical discharge that kind of emanated all this regolith outwards from the center and boiled the surface. Those are the two kind of things that really are up for debate on the moon, among other things, of course, but that's the geological standpoint. That's what we can do as citizen scientists, is look at different theories and then look at the actual data. Let me know what y'all think. Breaking news, astrophotographer catches meteor impact on Jupiter last night. This is Chaffel Astro on Twitter. All right, let me take a look at that. Damn, pretty awesome. ScienceAlert.com. I'm taking a look at this video. What time was it? At 2019 at 4:07 UTC. I'm gonna have to take a look at my footage and see if we caught that, because that's awesome. What do you think, Duplicate? How long is it going to take for Wall Thornhill to do a video on that? Talking about how, of course, an object coming near Jupiter's magnetosphere is going to affect it electrically. The same way they witnessed the comet back in the day in, what was it, 2006? Shoemaker-Levy, that kind of fragmented and hit Jupiter. And they were like, oh, nothing's going to happen. No one's going to see anything. And they saw a massive flare-up on Jupiter. Guitar Lot says, electrical scarring might magnetize elements and create geometric shapes. Yeah, I mean, for a lot of years I've been thinking that, and then after really 4 years of doing moon stuff, you kind of take a look at it and you're like, damn, that really is geometric. Like, what's going on there? Like, what kind of caused an impact like that? And then if impacts can't really explain it, then you have to look elsewhere. And the first one that came up really was this whole thing with electric scarification, which, just turning off the music here. Okay. Yeah, electric scarification has been proposed for a lot of years. I was reading from this paper from Ralph Jurgens and Ponce about electric scarification. Velikovsky mentions it, and I'm sure other people have been thinking about it for a lot longer. They even mention the fact that, what was it? Schroeder's Valley in Aristarchus, which is still not lit tonight, still under the Terminator, but Aristarchus was looked at in the, 1788 was the reference? So people have been looking at the moon thinking like, how are all these features formed? And we just live in a society where the drone system kind of just regurgitates the same thing. Oh, the moon went through heavy bombardment. The moon went through heavy bombardment over and over again until nobody can really ask any questions. And so here we go right now asking, like, is that really the case? Or was the moon electrically influenced by a nearby planet? And if so, like, what are those implications? And a song. Because it's important to get the message out there that we can think for ourselves and question things without acting crazy and being aggressive with one another. I think science has really gone a little too far into the bullying realm. We've got to introduce kindness back. Even if it exploded over the surface, I'm keeping it right here on Copernicus because look at this thing. It looks like it kind of just grew out of the ground, you know? It looks like a volcano, but this is like 90 kilometers across. Let me double check that actually. Copernicus is 93 kilometers across and 11,500 feet high on the rim. And this is particular, if you look at the electric universe concept of electric cratering, this has all the signature features, including it being hexagonal. And you can really see that actually on the left wall. I'm just going to leave it here for a moment, and you kind of, once you get rid of the idea of perfect circular craters and you really look at each side of the crater, you'll see that it's very sharp and defined. All right, I know I'm repeating myself here, so I'm going to shut up, leave this for a couple of minutes, and then we'll keep moving. few clouds coming in, but quick, very cool shot of Mons Pico, Plato crater to the right. Montes Tenerife is in the north of Mare Imbrium Basin. And I feel like I might want to zoom out and do some like wide shots of the moon against the clouds, if that happens. These are like, this to me looks like sputter, you know what I mean? I don't know if these mountain ranges were actually grown out of the bottom, you know, upwards, versus just like kind of electrical discharge machine sputter, creating these little mountain ranges nearby. Randall Carlson, I don't think I've actually seen that, but I'm going to pull it up in another tab for later. American. Oh man, yeah, he does look familiar now. Sacred geometry. Alright, I'll peep that later. Anybody who talks about electric universe, at least even to say they don't agree with it, I can listen to. It's the people who completely will ignore it that make it seem really suspicious. I'm looking at you, popular people on YouTube. Talk about electric universe if you dare. You know, you'd think that with all the evidence Thunderbolt's project has put forth and the length of time it's been discussed since Tesla to now, at least, not longer, that at least all the Veritasium, Vsauce, 2-minute physics, Smarter Every Day, PBS, Nova, Space Today, whatever, Griffith Observatory, Deep Astronomy, Joe Rogan would dedicate 1 week, at least one episode, but a week, to all the different proofs of the electric comet hypothesis, the fact that we still live in a world where there are sublimating snowballs versus dusty plasma. A big change, big implications. Second, Halton ARP, redshift being something completely different, possibly massive implications. Electric sun, massive implications. Solar weather from suspicious observers and earthquake determination, massive implications. Who cares about invading raiding Area 51, or all the stuff that's going on in the media really means nothing when you have paradigm-altering concepts just at your fingertips or at your chicken foot. I love this little region. You got particularly cool feature, this Plato crater, which doesn't really look as hexagonal as some. It's one of the very few elliptical craters. When you look at it from above, it's also still elliptical. But you want to wonder like how something like this was formed. The clouds definitely don't want me to show this right now, or whatever. Duplicate is here, I thought. I just called out a whole bunch of channels for not talking about Electric Universe. It's not really typical of me, but who cares? It's Friday night, and I'd just love to hear what people think about it. It's so interesting that all these public science channels, or whatever, profit YouTube science channels, just can't even talk about Electric Universe. They won't reference Halton ARP. They don't reference Velikovsky. Not once. Not once. Are you kidding me? Anthony Peratt, Pierre-Marie Robitaille. These guys are out there. Their channels like have 5,000 followers, 10,000 followers. Thunderbolt's project has like 150,000 followers. The EU channels in the description of my video all have like 5,000 to 10,000 followers. And then you have these absolutely ridiculous channels that make science atrocious and distant and just repugnant as a whole. you know, with millions and millions of views and followers. So trying to make a little dent, trying to make a tiny dent in that here tonight. What up, Easy E? Meant to say what's up. Dark matter is not real, but I think it's really just the term. Dark matter really could be the ether or plasma or everything in the universe. I think a lot of the popular science is just misnomers and misattributions and words just ad hoc to make it sound, again, 4 nights in a row, but George Carlin fucking had it. He was like, spooky language, man. It's all about this spooky damn language as opposed to realistic, granular detail about the moon. That's the other thing about the Apollo missions. For me, it's just so strange how little detail, considering how many missions were done and how many men actually walked on the moon, that when you go back and look at all the historical not articles, but the interviews, sorry, all the interviews with the astronauts, they talk about these really random things. It's just almost mind-numbing, and so little actual detail about being there or feeling empowered. Very little joy. To me, that's kind of profound. I know, you know, that it's not a surprise that the whole moon mission thing is a divisive situation in science right now, and the fact that it's just completely ignored as being an issue is one of those things that I think affects people. It's a huge deal. The moon is not unimportant at all. So we got Plato crater here. Very interesting example of almost like a giant blister created in the center and then having a flat floor, and then around it kind of regolith pushed outwards. I mean, I can't even imagine what kind of impact would create something like this. Cleary says 12 disciples. Oops, I mean lunar astronauts. Look, it's what I like about doing this show is that we can talk about these things and joke and take it seriously at the same time, and people don't get all up in a tizzy about it, because we really need to be able to talk about these ideas. Here's another perfect example of scarring. So this is the Alpine mountain range, Montes Alpes, if I recall correctly. I'm gonna bust the contrast for y'all. You can see this amazing like gash cut through the mountain range. And you have to wonder, was this lava? Was this water? Was this an electrical discharge event that cut through and carved a gully this long, which is about 130 kilometers, with about 12 kilometers across? And again, one of those features that if you look it up online, Valles Alpes, or the Alpine Valley, very little discussion or scientific research is done into this feature. Very simple feature. Let me know what you think of this feature. I love it. It's just so particular. There's nothing really like it on the rest of the surface as far as I can see. It's interesting. C. Smith says dried up riverbed. I used to think that as well, until I realized, like, I don't know where the mouth of the river is, and we don't really know kind of the elevation map. It just looks more, I mean, now it's a little bit blurry, but I've seen this even closer, and it really has these very sharply defined edges. And I know that on Earth we attribute those kind of canyons to long-term erosion. But similarly, in plasma cosmology, there are ideas where massive catastrophism on Earth actually created all these features that we see on Earth, like mountains, flat-top mountains, Grand Canyon, and many others via electrical events, and happen much faster as opposed to hundreds of millions of years of erosion. This also is kind of in public science. When you read some of the articles, they found out that things happen much faster. It's just that physics and astrophysics takes so long to change that, you know, the public ultimately will be the last to know. I mean, everybody will be the last to know unless you take some charge yourself and decide that physics is important to you and the moon is important. Easy E says runway for UFOs. That's funny. I never thought of that. But all right, so it's really awesome when you have so many features to go to in a night. Like, we haven't even gone back to Jupiter or Saturn. We've been hanging out on the moon the whole time, or the last 20 minutes, the whole time. Got Cassini, Autolycus, still hanging out over here. Let's take a quick gander. This is Posidonius. I don't know, I'm feeling like maybe it's time to go back to a wide shot, get some nice full view of the moon, but not before I reference Mare Crisium and Proclus as another particular feature that's so important, say event, particular feature. It still has its hexagonal nature. At the very top you can see it's flat, and then left it's diagonally down, and then on the right again goes diagonal and creates a hexagon. So how is a feature like this, that's about 300 kilometers across or more, or maybe 500, right? Crazy. It might be crazy. Mare Crisium. It is 620 kilometers from top to bottom, and then 570 from left to right. And it's just so obviously geometric that we really need to wonder, you know, do we understand the moon well enough to kind of dismiss it? And next to it, the very bright white crater, that is Proclus. And that's also a particular feature with its rays. And this is another one for the electric folk. I feel like, how is that still electrostatically active? And it's pretty much regular. Since people have been watching the moon, Proclus has been extremely bright. So is it still charged? So much to say. Quick reminder, check out the description of the video if you're new, and old playlists, and actually my regulars, check out same things because I've updated them recently. Also, some new songs up on Bandcamp, takebackspace.bandcamp.com. Go check that out, and more to come over the weekend. Tomorrow, the moon will be a little bit between Saturn and Jupiter, and then it'll be a little bit closer to Saturn in a couple of days. So hopefully some more streams this weekend. This track is called Friday Won't End, and we're about to end Friday, so it's appropriate. I keep forgetting to lower my damn mic, so maybe you're getting some echo. Anyway, that was a little bit of Saturn, or that is a bit of Saturn right there. Really cool, but man, is the moonlight affecting it tonight. And it's also moving away from us. I want to say it was closest like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. But imagine the footage of actually capturing something interact with Saturn. So far a couple of people have caught the Jupiter interaction, a Jupiter interaction. So funny when your mind splits and you think you're saying words and then you don't actually say words, but you're actually also listening to yourself. Speak to the world. Speak to the world. So funny, I also haven't done a live guitar stream, so I think hopefully on the full moon I'll switch over to the 11-inch and do some shows with some live tunage. Head back to the moon shortly. 6 minutes to midnight. It's almost Saturday already. Dang. What's up to Daniel Espinoza? Welcome, join us. Welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. Man, it's 2.5 hours. I'm starting to slur, but that's what happens. It's a fun night tonight. Really crystal clear moon. Look at this beautiful waxing gibbous. And right now it's on the southern portion. Mare Imbrium, half in shadow. And Mare Frigoris above that. I really loved Copernicus cut in half. You can see almost an inverted moon. That's the very prominent crater at the very bottom left corner. Definitely hit that 4K if you got it. And yeah, Daniel, if you want more information, hit up the description of the video and all the screens, and also the archive playlists. There are tons and tons of videos if you have the patience for, yeah, to go back and dig through the archive, or ask any questions if you'd like. Cool, what's going on, everybody else? E. Smith. Yeah, Daniel, Margello, all good. Hope everybody's feeling all right. I definitely got some energy still, especially with this kind of view. Let's do a little more wide shot. Right now I'm recording, so I'm capturing some of this 4K stuff for later. Yep, just a quick one. This one is A Line in the Sand. It's the first song off an album that I put out in 2016 called Vibration Theater. Actually, I put out 3 albums in 2016, Captain of the Stars and Call in My Mind. And those are all linked in my description. And then recently I've been updating Bandcamp, which is also in the description link, TakeBackSpace.bandcamp, for new songs that are coming out, and also for, like, if you want to get a whole bundle of songs for a really low price, you can get them there. And also a big shout out to everybody who's bought music on Bandcamp and listened. I checked it out today. It was really nice of everybody. So you know who you are. Cleary says, what is the crater on the bottom with the long lines coming out of it? Have I moved it already? Is it Copernicus? Is it now at the top of the screen? All right, I'm gonna do a little zoomed in tour anyway. I'll go through all the different prominent features. I'm gonna turn up the tunes and let's ride out. trippy. Trippy and deep, man. That was 6 minutes of some insane riffage from back in the day. That's all on the Vibration Theater album, the last couple of tracks. I was just tripping out here with Saturn. So the Saturnian system, the Chronosian system, the Proto-Saturnian realm that might have encompassed Earth one day. Right here with Rhea, Titan, Mimas, Eyepieces, Tethys, and Rhea. I said Rhea. Anyway, we can see 6 of Saturnian moons, and the rest are Sagittarian stars. I want to showcase it right by Jupiter. So interesting how the Saturn system seems always much more broad, and Jupiter just is very highlighted with those 4 moons. Now everybody's talking about food, getting me hungry, got some taters. But what I was saying is that Saturn is kind of that prototypical UFO disc shape. When I first viewed it, it actually looked about this size, but I didn't know to like open up the shutter to see the rest of the moons around it. So I just saw this kind of glowing football or potato. And it's like, damn, maybe people have been taking pictures of Saturn all along and thinking it's a UFO. I felt the same way about Jupiter for a lot of years. I would see Jupiter in the eastern skies, sort of where it is right now, but much earlier in the day. And I was like, man, is nobody seeing this really bright light in the sky? It's like an asteroid. It's coming right for us. And of course, after I got his telescope, I realized it was Jupiter. And similarly with Venus, Venus can be very intimidating. If you've ever stayed up to try and catch it on a scope, Venus really has some energy going behind it. And when you try and get it, you can barely get it in focus. It's glowing so brightly. All right, it's 12:17 in the humid south. Let me know how you all feeling in the chat room besides getting me hungry. I'm just gonna have a cigarette instead and gonna head back to the moon shortly. I really love the detail tonight. I don't know, what else have I not talked about? New music, Electric Universe stuff. I love it. In 3 hours, I get to talk about pretty much everything. Let me know if you have any questions about EU, plasma cosmology, the moon, gear. Otherwise, I might read a little bit more of the Ralph Jurgens paper about electric scarification on the moon. Once I go back to the moon, we can look at it up close and actually find the areas that he's talking about in this paper. But of course, Aristarchus is not showing tonight, so it's going to be tough to see Schroeder's Valley, but soon, the next couple of nights. This track is Never Can Sleep Again. No, actually, let's do the Journey to the Other Side. No, let's do Lost Arch. No, let's do Return to Earth. Radiohead. I could just zone out here. I love how detailed it is. So much to look at. Alright, let's switch up the vibe here to something a little more jam. Alright, let's start winding it down soon. Rolling into about almost 3 hours here. Maybe I got like 30 minutes left in me. We're right here around Clavius, with a chain of craters. This is such a particular feature. I mean, it really begs the question as to how this was formed. I know there's this idea that lots of the features on the moon are created by impacts, but this one particularly to me defies the idea of a string of like impacts that created such perfectly geometric, almost Fibonacci-like sequencing right in the middle of this other larger kind of blister. It almost looks psychedelic, like it's liquid melting. But definitely that's effect to the atmosphere. Yeah, let's mellow it out a bit here. Alright, so I'm gonna go real slow along the Terminator, and we'll just look at all these cool features. You know, if you've ever opened up a circuit board and you've seen all the kind of welding remnants, that's what this looks like when you kind of melt that kind the soldering iron, and it sputters and leaves little droplets. That's what this looks like. Much, much larger, of course. Check out this really amazing sinuous rill. Very apparent, sharp line cut through. You know, you wonder if that's like a riverbed or lava, or if that was really like scarring cutting across the surface. Let's zoom in one more layer here. I'm gonna see if there's a name. Yeah, Cleary, I was right at Tycho for a while. It's the one with that central peak. The one I showed earlier, the Ptolemaeus crater, that's what I've been trying to show for like a week. I was waiting for that one. It's such a perfect hexagon. I got that little graphic and overlaid it. So this is... trying to find my reference point. So that should be right at Marinubium. Got it. So that's Hesiodus, and the ringed crater with its own kind of hexagonal bottom area, that is called Pitatus. Yeah, Pitatus. So I'm gonna stick here, and then to the right of it, across the far right of the screen, that's Rimahoygens. Maybe I should write all these out. I'll take a second to do that. So those are some labels. That's Rupus recta is also called Huygens sword, or Rima Huygens, and it's like this shelf in the land in the regolith. And you got Patatus, which I labeled, and you can see the bottom half of Patatus is very hexagonal, and to the left of it is Hesiotis, and those are a couple of different craters, Hesiotis A and B, and a couple of different other labels. But what else is going on? Let's see. And this whole kind of region, the flatland, that's Mare Nubium. Lower this just a little bit. Oops. Turn that off. Definitely not IO. Alright, so let's keep moving. Alright, so what is this crater right here? Right here. Is this Perry? That's Wolf. Wolf is that little interesting looking headphone shape of headphones. That's Wolf, and then above that's Mare Nubium and Gould. And then to the left of that, that's Bully Aldous crater. That's awesome. My atlas still shows it in shadow. That's why I was having trouble finding it. But Bully Aldous is this crater that's right along the extended rays coming out of Tycho, but we don't see, but it's right in shadow. It's really interesting to me, at least. I love this crater. Really easy name to remember. Not easy, but I don't know. It stuck with me. Really cool. It's got its own little crescent moon embedded in it. And then to what's going on? Bully Aldous A and B. Then to the right of that's Gould, like I said, Opelt above that. I'm gonna keep following the line up. Alright, so there's these kind of much lower walled, the shorter walled, flat floored craters intersecting. So the two side by side, that's Bonpland and Parry, and then the one underneath that by itself is called Gueric. Above that, Fra Mauro, and then, man, this whole region is so cool. You can only really see it at particular phases when the sun is at this correct angle. Rare to get this detail. Here's a particular region where you can see a lot of actual rubble, which is not so apparent in other regions. The other stuff really looks like sputter and scattered like striations, but this actually looks like a bunch of little rocks broken off over here. Let's zoom in a little bit more. This is coming up on Copernicus crater, but what is it before that? It's Reinhold. Yeah, this is Reinhold and Landsberg, and then Copernicus coming up, and you can even see Copernicus is now even more lit. It's cool. What you can do is go back to the beginning of the stream, maybe not now, but when you come back to it, and see the earlier shot of Copernicus versus the Copernicus right now. And you can kind of see the shadow has already moved inside the crater. This shot is just awesome. I'll stay here for a bit. I'll go back to the South Pole clearly after. How's it going to Shar Jade? And everybody's still hanging out. Thanks so much for keeping me company on this killer night of astronomy. Always so much fun when it's clear. I want to say this shot right here is one of those shots that I don't think I've had before. It's a particular rotation, and I've definitely gotten this area before, but it's really just the angle that it's at and the particular clarity of it. This is right near Mare Frigoris, like I put in the labels, Plato, Mons Pico, Montes Tenerife. Looking mighty nice tonight. Chill tunes. I'm gonna let it sit here for a moment and actually go get a snack, because as soon as I said the word food, my stomach growled. Let's keep it going tonight. We got beautiful skies, nowhere else to be, edge of space, edge of reality, deep in the slow system. This little song called Of the Water. Like I said, lots of new stuff on Bandcamp. This one's going to be there too. what's up? Starlight Spectrum, how you doing? Welcome. I was just gonna quickly answer you about the gear. So please check out the description of the video for list of links and information and also gear list. But yeah, this is the Sony Alpha 6500 into a Nexstar 8. And now it's just cam to scope. And soon I'm gonna put on the focal reducer so we can see it a bit wider. I kind of wanted to see Jupiter and the moon in one shot tonight, but I didn't set up the 4-inch. So right now they're both setting. I'm gonna do a quick shot of Jupiter before we close out as well. Yeah. And I just had the remaining cherry pie, which is amazing. So cherry pie and cold water, that satisfies deeply. It's going to be like half a crater in light. I'm going to try and find the name. Starlight, that's awesome. I don't think I have it in me to stay up. I think Cleary, that Mercury is kind of visible right around where the sunrise is. I'm gonna check that actually. I will be looking for the Mercury transit in November though. Yep, Mercury at 6:30 or 6 o'clock. So interesting. The morning sky has so many cool shots. Appreciate that, Lumberjack. Thank you. Yo, what up, FE dude? So, right here on the South Pole, I was trying to get the name of this crater, but I think it's Mauritius. But I'm not 100% sure. And then it's right underneath Clavius. It does say Mauritius here, so amazing detail tonight. Definitely getting a little sleepy, but still looking good. Let's ride a little longer. What else do I have? Here we go. Haven't played this in a bit. Perfect vibes. Let's go. Hell yeah. Awesome, Starlight. Let's go take a look at Jupiter real quick before it sets. thanks for the kind words. What's up, Terry H? Yeah, Jupiter's about to set. And it's been filling like right in front of the moon all night. So the visibility has been a little bit shoddy, but super cool. We saw a little bit of the Great Red Storm earlier and the moons. Cleary, I appreciate that if you'd super chat. I don't have super chat because I've mentioned it before, the whole contract thing with music and YouTube. So if you want to support the channel, you can hit my Bandcamp or pick up some of the albums on Amazon or iTunes. That way you can support me through music. And then I keep the money out of like astronomy because I think there's so much kind of crap that happens in astronomy because money is related and kind of intrinsically tied, and it's so political. And I really want to try and not do like a money exchange for astronomy images. Astronomy should be free and it should be as honest as possible. Yeah, so this is not really as good as I've gotten Jupiter before. You can really get much closer, but you'll see a little bit of the chromatic, like the fringing, which is the kind of blue and yellow, blue and orange tint. That's because it's actually getting lower and lower on the horizon, and it's getting denser, and so the refraction is more and more, and it kind of stretches the spectrum. But what's cool is that we can see the moons and they also start to stretch. So right now, all the moons and Jupiter are basically being stretched elliptically and optically, not in real time, or not actually stretched, but just optically. I mean, man, I can barely find words. I am starting to fade, y'all. So this is our beautiful Jupiter and the moons. What am I going to do? I'm going to go back to Saturn for a moment, and then I'm going to end it on the moon. I appreciate everybody hanging out tonight. It's been super fun. Daniel's asking about what about gases on Jupiter. Daniel, please take a look at Thunderbolt's project if you're interested at all in plasma cosmology, because the idea of Jupiter and all these gas giants, these so-called gas giants, these gas giants, you know, there are different theories as to how these planets actually grow, interact, and exist at all in an electrical space. In terms of the gases on Jupiter, from pictures, it's really hard to gauge what's really happening in terms of gases dissipating into space around Jupiter. But I bet if you looked up X-ray or infrared images of Jupiter, you'd see kind of where the gases or the plasma is in a kind of dark mode or mostly dark mode around Jupiter. It's a massive magnetic influence in space. So that's a couple of ideas. All right, everybody, let's do a little bit more here. Actually, this is kind of the right song. There are about 4 minutes left. It's perfect. quick look at Jupes, quick look at Saturn, back at the moon with the wide shot. Daniel, take it easy. Catch you on the next one, man. Terry says, man, people go to bed early here. Definitely not going to bed, but gonna get off the computer for sure. Sit outside and watch the moon set. Already the moon's pretty low and everything is getting cloudy. So it's perfect timing. Long one tonight, good one tonight. Everybody have an awesome Saturday morning. Starlight Spectrum, appreciate you coming through. Same thing, Daniel. Please definitely hit the bell. I know it's so cheesy to say that, but hit the bell so you can see when I go live. People always say, damn, you didn't notify me. I'm like, I don't know what to say. So, and check out Bandcamp and all the music, description, archived playlists, Electric Universe stuff. Even if you believe something entirely different, always good to entertain new ideas. It's really good, really fulfilling. Last track called Friday Won't End, but it just did. Good night, everybody. Thanks again. I'll go through roll call real quick. Starlight Spectrum, more Jello, please. West Brooklyn, Daniel, Bomdia, Legal Fiction, sorry. I know you just got here, but catch you on another one. Clearly, Shara Jade, Ellie Wynn and Mary, FE Dude, Flat Earth Dude, C. Smith, I know there are a bunch more people, Genghis Khan, but I can't find them anymore. Take care, everybody. Stay wise, stay safe. Be kind to one another as much as possible. Peace.